It is 2 in the morning. The room is completely dark. Your body is still. But inside your head, 3 conversations are happening at the same time. One is replaying something you said 3 days ago, rewinding it, editing it, rehearsing what you should have said instead. One is already living in next Monday, building a version of the future that hasn't arrived, preparing for a disaster that may never come. And one, the quietest one, the most exhausting one, is asking, why can't I just stop? You are not tired because life is hard. You are tired because your mind will not give you a single moment of peace. And no matter what you try, no matter how many times you tell yourself to relax, to breathe, to let it go, the noise comes back, sometimes louder than before. Everyone around you says the same thing. Stop overthinking. Just be present. You need to calm down. But Carl Jung said something that cuts much deeper than that. He didn't call overthinking a weakness. He called it a message. A signal from the part of you that has been buried so long it has no other way to reach you. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. That is what is happening inside you right now. This is not a video about breathing techniques or thought-stopping exercises. This is a journey into the real reason your mind cannot be quiet. And once you understand it, not just intellectually, but in your body, in your bones, everything changes. Not because the world changes, because you finally stop fighting yourself. Are you ready to hear what your mind has actually been trying to say? 1. That noise is your shadow, and it is tired of being ignored. Before your feet touch the floor in the morning, you are already somewhere else. You are replaying yesterday. You are arguing with someone who is not in the room. You are predicting a version of Tuesday that hasn't happened yet. You are carrying 10 conversations inside your head, and not one of them is real. And then you wonder why your chest feels tight before the day even begins. Why your body feels heavy before you have done anything. Why you are exhausted by 9 in the morning when all you did was wake up. This is what living in your head actually feels like. Not the poetic version, the real version. The version where you sit across from someone you love, and your body is there, but your mind is 3 conversations away. The version where you lie in bed at midnight, and the ceiling becomes a screen for every fear you have ever had. The version where a single unanswered message sends your nervous system into a state of silent emergency. You have been told that this is just how you are, that you are a worrier, that you are sensitive, that you think too much. But here is what no one tells you. Overthinking is not a personality trait. It is not intelligence. It is not even a bad habit in the ordinary sense. It is an addiction. And like every addiction, it gives you something. It gives you the illusion of control. Your mind says, if I analyze this enough, I can prevent the pain. If I imagine every worst-case scenario, I will be ready. If I replay the past long enough, I can rewrite it. Look at your life honestly. Has it worked? You have been thinking about that situation for months. Has it resolved? You have rehearsed that conversation 100 times. Has it gotten easier? You have planned for every possible outcome. Are you at peace? The thinking is not solving the problem. The thinking is the problem. There was a woman named Mia. From the outside, her life looked exactly the way it was supposed to look. A good career, people who loved her, a life that checked every box someone told her to check. But every night, alone in her room, she didn't know what she actually wanted. Not in the way you don't know what to have for dinner. In the way that she didn't know who she was underneath all the doing and the performing and the managing. She was exhausted. Not from her life, from her own mind. She had tried everything. She downloaded the meditation apps. She journaled. She exercised. She talked to friends. She read the books. And still, the moment she stopped moving, the noise came back. What Mia didn't know yet, and what most people never discover, is that the noise was never the enemy. The noise was a signal, and she had been trying to turn off the radio instead of listening to the song. Think about the content of your own loops for a moment. What does your mind keep returning to? Is it fear of not being enough? Is it the worry that something is about to fall apart? Is it the old story of how you were treated, how you were overlooked, how you were left? The specific content of the loop is not random. It is a map. And it is pointing towards something inside you that has been waiting, sometimes for years, to finally be seen. But before we can understand what the map is pointing to, we have to understand something even more fundamental, something that explains why the noise never stops, even when life is going well. Even when you have everything you thought you needed. The problem is not that your mind is out of control. The problem is that you have been living inside a version of yourself that was never really you. And that version, the one that runs on approval and performance and quiet, constant fear, never sleeps. It cannot afford to. 2. You are not you. You are your persona. Here is the question that changes everything. Who have you been performing for today? Not in a dramatic sense, in the quiet, everyday sense. The way you chose your words carefully in that meeting. The way you smiled when you didn't feel like smiling. The way you said, "I'm fine," when you were not fine at all. The way you adjusted yourself again and again without even noticing you were doing it. Carl Jung had a name for this. He called it the persona. Not the word we use casually, the way an actor wears a costume on stage. Jung meant something much more specific. He meant the social mask that every single one of us builds from childhood, shaped by what we learned was safe to show, rewarded to be, acceptable to feel. The persona is that which in reality one is not, but which oneself, as well as others, think one is. You built your mask for good reasons. Maybe you learned early that certain emotions made the people around you uncomfortable. So you buried them. Maybe you discovered that being helpful, or being quiet, or being the strong one kept the peace. So you became those things. Maybe you were told directly or indirectly that parts of you were too much, too sensitive, too needy, too loud, too slow, too different. And so you shaped yourself into something more manageable. The mask was never a villain. The mask was a survival strategy. It worked. It got you through. The problem is that you forgot to take it off. And here is where the connection to overthinking becomes undeniable. When you live through a persona, the mind never rests. It cannot. Because the persona has to constantly monitor its environment. It has to ask without ceasing, am I doing this right? Am I saying the right thing? Do they still approve? Is it safe? Am I enough? That relentless inner checking. That constant background hum of evaluation and adjustment. That is not your mind being undisciplined. That is your mask doing exactly what it was designed to do. It is protecting you, around the clock, even when there is nothing to protect you from. Mia understood this on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. She was in a meeting, saying exactly what she knew everyone expected to hear. And she said it perfectly. The right words, the right tone, the right amount of confidence. People nodded. The meeting ended well. But on the walk back to her desk, she felt something she couldn't name. A kind of invisible exhaustion. Not tired in her body. Tired in some layer underneath that. And the question came to her, not as a thought exactly, more like something surfacing from somewhere deep. When was the last time I said something I actually meant? She didn't have an answer. This is what it looks like when the persona has become the whole identity. When you have been the performing version of yourself for so long that the real version has become a stranger. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations that we have power over our minds, not over outside events. But Jung would add something that Aurelius didn't say. You only have power over your mind when you know whose mind it actually is. Yours, or the character you have been playing for everyone else's comfort. The noise in your head is often the sound of those two things in conflict. The mask working to maintain its performance, and the real you underneath trying to breathe. And here is what makes this so difficult to see. The mask does not feel like a mask. It feels like you. It feels like your personality, your nature, the way you are. You don't experience it as a role you are playing. You experience it as simply existing. This is why you can meditate for 30 minutes and still feel the noise the moment you stop, because the practice reached the surface. But the mask lives deeper than the surface. This is why positive thinking doesn't quiet the anxiety for long, because you are adding a new layer on top of the old one. The old performance is still running underneath. This is why the noise comes back even on good days, even when nothing is actually wrong, because the mask doesn't respond to circumstances. It responds to the fear that created it, and that fear was built long before your current life began. If you recognize yourself in any of this, I want you to do something simple. Leave one word in the comments right now, just the word mask. Not because it will fix anything, but because naming what is true is always the first step towards something real. And because somewhere in you, something just recognized itself. The mask is the cause, but it is not the whole story, because underneath the mask, there is something even older, something that has been trying to reach you for a very long time. And the reason it hasn't reached you yet is not because it isn't loud enough. It is because every time it gets close, something makes sure you look away. 3. Every time you suppress your shadow, it gets louder. Here is something nobody tells you about overthinking. Every strategy you have ever used to stop it has made it stronger. Not because you did it wrong, because the strategies themselves are based on a fundamental misunderstanding of what the noise actually is. Think about what you have already tried. You have told yourself to stop. You have breathed through it. You have journaled. You have scrolled through your phone until your eyes couldn't stay open. You have worked so hard you didn't have time to think. You have poured another glass of wine. You have started another series. You have made more plans, more lists, more goals. You have tried to be more positive, more disciplined, more present. And yet, the moment you stop, it is still there. Sometimes exactly where you left it. Sometimes worse. Here is what is actually happening. Every time you treat the noise as the enemy, every time you try to silence it, suppress it, override it, you are sending your nervous system a very specific signal. These thoughts are dangerous. And a mind that believes its own thoughts are dangerous does not become quieter. It becomes more vigilant. It produces more thoughts, more monitoring, more scanning, more noise, because that is what a threatened mind does. It escalates to protect you. The harder you fight it, the harder it fights back. Jung saw this clearly. He wrote that people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. He wasn't talking about dramatic avoidance. He was talking about the kind that looks completely reasonable, the kind that looks like self-improvement, the kind that looks like getting your life together. Because here is the thing about overthinking that no one wants to admit. Overthinking is not actually a thinking problem. It is a feeling problem. The noise in your head is not there because you love thinking. It is there because somewhere underneath the thoughts, there is a feeling you are not willing to feel. And the thoughts are the distraction. The noise is the escape route. You don't want to feel that particular sadness, so you analyze the reasons for it instead. You don't want to feel that particular fear, so you make plans to prevent every possible outcome. You don't want to feel that particular loneliness, so you reach for your phone before the feeling can land. You don't want to feel the uncertainty, so you keep thinking until the thinking exhausts you into unconsciousness. Try something right now. Sit still for 60 seconds. No phone, no music, no movement, just you and whatever is in the room. What happens in your body? For most people, it is not peace. It is a wave of something uncomfortable that rises almost immediately. Something they cannot name clearly, but can feel very clearly. A pressure, a restlessness, a faint dread. That is what the overthinking is protecting you from feeling. And no technique you put on top of that feeling will touch the source of the noise. Not breathing, not journaling, not meditation, not cold showers, not positive affirmations, not productivity hacks, not any of it, because the source is not in your thoughts. The source is in what the thoughts are designed to prevent you from experiencing. There was a woman named Elena who tried everything for years. Apps, therapy, journaling, yoga retreats, everything the wellness world told her would quiet her mind. And it would help briefly. A few days of relative peace. And then the noise would return. The turning point for her didn't come from a new technique. It came from a completely different direction. One evening, she stopped trying to manage it. She stopped trying to quiet it. She sat with her hands in her lap, and she simply let the feeling underneath the noise come forward, without running from it, without immediately trying to understand it, or fix it, or explain it. What surfaced was not what she expected. It wasn't dramatic. It was just an old and quiet grief she had never allowed herself to fully feel. Something from a long time ago. Something she had been running from in 100 different ways without ever knowing that was what she was doing. She sat with it, and after a while, the noise began to shift. Not because she had solved anything, because for the first time in years, the part of her that had been screaming for attention had finally been heard. This is the thing about the noise. It is not trying to destroy you. It is trying to reach you. And it will keep escalating until you finally turn toward it instead of away. The question is, what exactly is underneath it? What are you not yet willing to feel? 4. You are not the ego. You are the self behind it. Try something with me right now. Think of the thing you worry about most. Let it come forward completely. Don't push it away. Let the thought be fully present. Now notice this. Who is watching that thought? Someone is observing it. Someone is aware of it. And that someone is you right now, listening to these words while that worry sits quietly in the background. If you can watch a thought, you cannot be the thought, because you cannot watch something and simultaneously be it. The watcher and the watched are not the same. The watcher, that is you, not the voice that criticizes, not the voice that catastrophizes, not the voice that replays and predicts and judges. Those are thoughts. Those are movements in the mind. They are real, but they are not you. This is not a spiritual concept designed to make you feel better. This is one of the most important psychological distinctions Carl Jung ever articulated. Jung described the ego as the part of the psyche that speaks, plans, judges, fears, wants, the voice in your head that narrates your life. Most people believe that voice is who they are. They live entirely inside it. They take every thought it produces as truth. But Jung also described something he called the self, something larger, something that cannot be reduced to the noise, something that encompasses the ego the way the ocean encompasses a wave. The ego is only a small part of the total psyche. The self is not only the center, but also the whole circumference which embraces both conscious and unconscious. The ego is the wave, the self is the ocean, and you have been so caught inside the wave that you forgot there was an ocean at all. This concept did not originate with Jung alone. In Buddhist philosophy, it is called witness consciousness, the state of pure observation that is not pulled into the content of thoughts. When Jung studied Eastern philosophy, which he did deeply, he recognized that these traditions were describing the same reality his clinical work had revealed. There is a part of the human being that is fundamentally undisturbed, not because it has achieved peace, but because it is, by nature, the space in which everything else appears. You have touched this before. In moments of genuine absorption, a walk in nature, creating something with your hands, a conversation so real that you forgot to perform. In those moments, you were not narrating. You were not evaluating. You were simply present. And in that presence, the noise was gone. Not because you suppressed it, because you stepped out of it without realizing. That is the state Jung was pointing toward. And it is not something you have to build. It is something you have to remember. Mia found it on an ordinary Thursday evening. She was sitting alone in her kitchen, and the familiar question arrived, the one that had been showing up for years, sometimes loud, sometimes as a quiet background hum. Am I enough? This time she didn't try to answer it. She didn't try to argue with it, or dismiss it, or replace it with a better thought. She just watched it. She let it sit there, the way you might watch a cloud move across a window, present, but not pulled in. And something unexpected happened. In the act of watching the thought, she became aware of something underneath it, the part of her that was doing the watching. And that part was not asking the question. It was not the one who doubted. It was not the one who was afraid. The part that was watching had never doubted anything. It was simply there, quiet, stable, real. And in that moment, something she could not fully put into words became clear to her. The voice that asks, "Am I enough?" is a thought. The one sitting here watching it has never once felt insufficient. She didn't try to capture it or analyze it. She just let it be true for a moment. That was enough to change something. Jung wrote, "Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes." This is what he meant, not that looking inward means thinking more about yourself. It means discovering that there is a you beneath the thinking, a you that is not defined by the noise, a you that has been there the whole time, patient, intact, waiting for you to notice. Here's a question worth sitting with, not answering in your head right now, but carrying with you after this video ends. If you can observe your fear, are you the fear? If you can observe your doubt, are you the doubt? If you can stand back and watch the whole performance of the inner critic, who is the one standing back? Each time you notice you are watching, you have already stepped out of the trap, not permanently, not forever, but for that moment. And that moment is where everything begins. If this is landing somewhere real for you, press like right now, not for the video. As a quiet acknowledgement to yourself, I saw something true just now. That small act of recognition matters more than it might seem. The noise is not who you are. It never was. But understanding that is only the beginning. Because now comes the deeper question. Where did the noise come from? And why does it keep returning? Even when you know all of this, the answer is in what the noise is actually made of. 5. Your shadow does not need to be fought. It needs to be heard. Now that you know you are not the noise, a new question opens up. Where does the noise come from? Not in the neurological sense, in the human sense. Why does your mind keep returning to the same themes? Why does it keep pulling at the same wounds? Why, no matter how much you understand intellectually, does the loop keep running? The answer lives in what Carl Jung called the shadow. Not darkness in the dramatic sense, not evil, not the worst of you. The shadow is simply every part of you that was taught it was not allowed to exist. Every emotion that was too much for the room you grew up in. Every need that was dismissed. Every feeling that was labeled as weakness or selfishness or wrong. Every part of yourself that you learned, quietly, to push below the surface so that you could still be loved, accepted, safe. You pushed those parts down. They did not disappear, they moved underground. And from underground, they do what all buried things do. They find another way out. The shadow is a moral problem that challenges the whole ego personality, for no one can become conscious of the shadow without considerable moral effort. Look at the specific content of your mental loops, not the fact that they exist, but what they are about. If your mind keeps returning to the fear of being rejected, the shadow there is carrying something that once learned that love is conditional, that you have to earn your place, that being fully yourself is too risky. If your mind keeps catastrophizing about failure, the shadow is carrying a belief so old you probably can't remember when you first absorbed it. I am not the kind of person who deserves to succeed. If your mind keeps replaying old arguments and injustices, the shadow is carrying grief. The grief of not being seen, not being heard, not mattering enough for someone to stay. The content of the loop is not random. It is a map. It points directly to the part of you that is still waiting to be acknowledged. This is why every technique aimed at the surface level eventually fails. You are not dealing with a thought problem. You are dealing with an unwitnessed part of yourself. And that part will not be quieted by a better productivity app. It will only quiet when it is finally heard. Mia discovered this the night after her kitchen moment. She didn't meditate. She didn't journal. She didn't do anything she had read about. She just sat. And when the familiar ache came up beneath the thoughts, the one that felt like loneliness even when she wasn't alone, she didn't move away from it. She stayed. She didn't try to name it or understand it or trace it back to its origin. She just let it be present. She breathed in its direction. She treated it the way you would treat something fragile that had been waiting a very long time to be held. And something shifted. Not dramatically, not all at once, but the pressure changed. The weight of it changed, like releasing something that had been held underwater for too long. This is what healing actually looks like at this level, not becoming someone who never has hard feelings, but becoming someone who can be present for their own experience without running from it. Emotions are not permanent identities. They are energy moving through the body. When you think about them, analyze them, narrate them. The energy gets trapped in the thinking and cannot complete its cycle. When you feel them directly in the body without the layer of story on top, the energy moves, it shifts, it passes. This is why thinking about your sadness for months keeps you sad, and why 5 minutes of actually feeling it, really feeling it, not processing it intellectually, but letting it land in your chest, can change something that years of analysis could not touch. The noise in your head is not your enemy. It is a part of you that learned the only way to get your attention was to get very loud. And what it needs from you is not silence. It needs what every part of a human being ultimately needs: to be seen, to be acknowledged, to not have to shout anymore. When you begin to turn toward the noise instead of fighting it, something begins to change. The urgency of the loop decreases, not because the pain disappears, but because the part of you that was screaming finally feels heard. That is where healing begins. But hearing the noise is only one part of the journey, because beneath the surface of every loop, there is a deeper pattern. A reason why the same wounds keep showing up in different relationships, different jobs, different years. And that reason requires a different kind of understanding entirely. 6. The pain repeats until individuation begins. You have changed jobs. Maybe you have changed cities. Maybe you have changed relationships. Maybe you have done the therapy, read the books, done the inner work. And still, the same theme finds you. Different characters, different circumstances, same story. This is not bad luck. This is not a punishment. This is one of the most consistent observations Jung made across decades of clinical work. When something in the inner world remains unresolved, it surfaces in the outer world repeatedly until it is finally addressed at its source. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. The word Jung used for the process of addressing it at its source was individuation. It is one of his most important ideas, and also one of the most misunderstood. Individuation does not mean becoming more individual in the social sense, more unique, more distinguished from others. It means becoming whole. It means gathering back together the parts of yourself that were divided off, suppressed, pushed away, and integrating them into a complete self. Individuation means becoming an individual, and insofar as individuality embraces our innermost, last, and incomparable uniqueness, it also implies becoming one's own self. Think of it this way. In ancient Egyptian mythology, the god Osiris is torn into 14 pieces and scattered across the land. The goddess Isis travels to every corner of the world to find each fragment and bring them back together. Only when all the pieces are gathered can Osiris be restored. Jung saw in that story the image of what every human being is actually doing or failing to do across a lifetime. Every time you were forced to cut off a part of yourself to survive, to be accepted, to be safe, a piece was scattered. Every emotion you were taught to suppress, every need you learned to pretend you didn't have. Every part of yourself you labeled as too much, not enough, unacceptable. Those pieces did not disappear. They live in the unconscious, and they pull the strings of your choices, your reactions, your relationships, and your inner loops from a place you cannot see. This is why changing the outside doesn't stop the inside from hurting. You take the unintegrated pieces with you everywhere you go. They don't care that you have a new partner. They don't care that you moved to a new city. They will stage the same emotional drama in the new setting with new actors until you finally address them at their source. Mia began to understand this slowly, over weeks and months of sitting with herself in a different way. She noticed that the fear of not being enough had appeared in every significant relationship she had ever had. With her parents when she was small, with teachers, with friends, with people she loved romantically. It was always the same shape, even when the situation looked completely different. She realized she had been solving the wrong problem her whole life. She had been trying to find enough evidence that she was enough. More achievements, more approval, more love. But the underlying belief, the one that said you are not enough by default, had never been touched, because she had never even known it was there. Becoming aware of it, truly aware of it, not just intellectually knowing it as a concept, but feeling it as something real inside her, was the beginning of something changing at a level no achievement had ever reached. Here is something worth trying, not as an exercise in a workbook, as a real question you carry with you. The next time a familiar loop appears, instead of asking, "How do I stop this?" ask something different. Ask, "When did I first learn that this feeling was dangerous? Where in my body am I holding this right now?" You don't need to answer those questions perfectly. You don't need a complete psychological biography. You just need to turn in the direction of the wound instead of away from it. That turning is what begins to close the gap between the divided pieces. Because you are not broken. You are not defective. You are fragmented in the specific ways that your specific history made necessary. And fragmented things can be gathered, not all at once, not without difficulty, but they can be gathered. And as they come back together, something begins to happen that is very difficult to explain, but unmistakable once you experience it. The noise starts to change its quality, not because you conquered it, because the part that was generating it is no longer alone. 7. Freedom begins the moment the ego stops driving. There is a final misunderstanding about all of this that needs to be named directly. The goal is not a silent mind. If you have been reading or listening or watching content about mindfulness and presence and inner peace, you have probably absorbed the idea somewhere that the destination is a state of mental quiet, that the evolved, awakened, healed version of yourself will one day sit in stillness with no noise and no disturbance and finally feel okay. Jung never said that. And it is not true. The goal is not to silence the mind. The goal is to stop being controlled by it. That distinction is everything. A silent mind and a free mind are not the same thing. A silent mind is what you get when the persona has successfully suppressed everything uncomfortable. It is not peace. It is numbness. It is the absence of conflict because everything has been pushed far enough down that it cannot surface. A free mind is something completely different. A free mind still has thoughts, still has fears, still has difficult feelings, but it is not ruled by them. It can hear the noise without obeying it. It can feel the discomfort without being consumed by it. It can watch the wave without drowning in it. There is a very old image that describes this well. A master blacksmith does not hold the hammer every hour of every day. He knows when to strike the hot metal, when the force is needed and the moment is right. And he also knows when to set the hammer down, when to step back, when to let the cooling darkness do its own work on the metal's inner structure, the kind of work that cannot be rushed or forced. Your mind works the same way. There is thinking that serves you, the thinking that solves real problems, that creates real things, that plans with clarity and then stops when the plan is made. You pick that thinking up when you need it. You put it down when you are finished. And there is thinking that runs you. The thinking that loops and replays and catastrophizes and second guesses long after there is anything productive being done. That thinking is not intelligence. That thinking is a wound that has not yet been addressed. The foundation of all mental illness is the unwillingness to experience legitimate suffering. Jung said this, and it points to the heart of what freedom actually requires. Freedom does not come from avoiding the difficult. It comes from developing the capacity to be with the difficult and without needing it to stop. When you can feel fear without immediately running into thought to escape it, you are free from the fear. When you can sit with uncertainty without immediately reaching for your phone, you are free from the anxiety. When you can be with your own loneliness without immediately filling the space with noise, something in you becomes available that was not available before. Mia described it this way, months after the evening in her kitchen. She said the noise had not disappeared. Thoughts still came, worries still arrived. The familiar voice still showed up sometimes with its old questions. But something about the relationship with it had completely changed. It no longer felt like an emergency. It no longer felt like an identity. It felt like weather, something that moves through, something that changes, something she could observe without needing it to be different from what it was. She said, "I don't need it to stop anymore." And somehow, because I don't need it to stop, it isn't as loud. That is freedom, not the absence of noise, the absence of war with the noise. The master blacksmith puts the hammer down not because the work is finished forever, but because that particular moment calls for stillness. And in that stillness, the most important changes happen. You are learning to put the hammer down. Not permanently, just when it is not needed. That is the practice, and it is simpler than anything you have been told, and harder, and more real. 8. You were never the wound. You were always the self. Imagine a lake, deep, still, ancient. When the surface is constantly disturbed, churned by wind and movement, and things being thrown into it, you cannot see the bottom. Not because the bottom is not there, but because the surface will not hold still long enough to reflect what lies beneath. The surface is your mind. The bottom of the lake is you. And here is what is true, even on the noisiest days, even in the worst of the loops, even when the noise feels like it is everything. The bottom of the lake has never moved. It has always been there, quiet, intact, unmoved by what happens on the surface, unmoved by every wave, every storm, everything that was thrown in from outside. You are not the noise. You have never been the noise. You are the one who hears it. And the one who hears it has never been broken, has never been insufficient, has never been the collection of fears and wounds and loops that the noise would have you believe you are. That is who you actually are, the witness, the deep ground, the thing that remains when the surface finally stills. Jung wrote, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." You are waking up. If something in this journey met you where you actually are, leave one sentence in the comments below. Just this: I am the one listening, not as a performance, as a private acknowledgement of something you now know. And if someone in your life is caught in the noise right now, share this with them. Because sometimes the most important thing one person can do for another is simply say, "You are not what you are hearing inside your head. Subscribe." Because this journey inward does not end with one video. It begins again every single day, in every moment you choose to listen instead of run. You were never lost. You were just very, very busy. And now finally, you are coming home.